If you still believe Jesus came to build a religion, then the story you were given has already done its job. If you believe the Bible contains everything he ever taught, then the silence you're standing in is not accidental. Because the most dangerous truths are never destroyed. They are buried carefully, strategically, until humanity is ready to remember them again. Jesus was not executed for preaching kindness. Empires do not crucify moral teachers. He was silenced because what he revealed dismantled power at its root. He did not say, "Worship me." He said, in essence, "Remember who you are." And that single distinction changes everything. Because the moment a human remembers their divine origin, no throne, no priesthood, no doctrine can rule them again. What if the Jesus you were taught to adore was a veil placed over the Jesus who came to awaken? What if the crown placed on his head was never meant to exalt him, but to hide the fact that he came to reveal kingship within you? The Gnostic texts, those labeled heretical, burned, erased, and mocked, did not present a different Jesus. They preserved the same one, just without the leash. He spoke of a kingdom, but not one built in the clouds or postponed until death. He spoke of a kingdom already alive, already breathing, already pulsing within the human interior. The kingdom of God is within you, not as poetry, as instruction, as architecture, as a map. This is where the danger began. Because a kingdom within needs no gatekeeper, no permission, no mediator. And Rome understood this instantly. A people who believe divinity lives inside them do not kneel easily. So the message was inverted. God was pushed outward. Heaven was postponed. Divinity was centralized, institutionalized, and sold back to humanity in fragments. Jesus shattered that illusion with a sentence that still echoes like a forbidden frequency. I and the Father are one, not as a claim of superiority, but as an invitation to recognition. These things I do, you will do also, and greater. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you heard that emphasized? When was the last time you were reminded that the same breath animating him animates you? Because if you truly understood that, fear would collapse. Guilt would dissolve. Control would fail. You would stop begging heaven and start embodying it. This was the first teaching they tried to bury. Jesus did not come to be worshipped. He came to awaken what had been anesthetized. He did not want followers who bowed. He wanted beings who remembered. Mirrors, not monuments. Living evidence that the divine could walk, speak, and breathe through flesh. And here is the riddle that threatened every hierarchy. He was not pointing away from humanity toward God. He was revealing what God looks like inside a human being. That revelation erased the middleman entirely. No ritual could replace remembrance. No doctrine could substitute direct knowing. The path was inward, not upward. But awakened minds are uncontrollable. So the empire did what empires always do. It took the key and forged a lock. It took the map and turned it into a maze. It took an inner kingdom and sold an external heaven, a distant God, an angry watcher, a judgment deferred until death. Yet Jesus spoke something so scandalous it could not be openly erased, only reframed. The kingdom of God is within you. Not later, not elsewhere, within. He did not come to start a religion. He came to end the illusion of separation. And if that illusion is false, then who are you really? If the same divine current that flowed through him still flows through you, why does it feel so distant? Could it be that the truth was never buried in a tomb but folded into your own forgetting? Because once you grasp this, everything shifts. Heaven was never meant to be a destination. It was a state of alignment, a frequency of consciousness, a remembrance of origin. Not a reward for obedience, but a revelation of identity. Jesus never said you go to heaven when you die. He said heaven is already here, right? already accessible, already alive within you. This was not metaphor, it was mechanics, a code embedded in awareness itself. Heaven is not later, it is now. Not a faraway realm, but a dimension layered beneath the noise of thought. It lives in breath, in stillness, in the silence between impulses, in the spine, not the sky. The work was never to escape the world, but to tune the self until it resonated with the frequency you never truly left. This terrified power structures more than anything else. Because a heaven you can enter without permission collapses every hierarchy. A paradise that does not require payment cannot be controlled. If heaven is a revelation instead of a reward, then no one owns the keys. So the story was rewritten. Heaven became distant, conditional, earned. You were declared unworthy by default, too human to touch the divine. Cathedrals were built outward so you would forget the sanctuary within. But the second forbidden teaching survived in whispers. Heaven awakens the moment the inner war ends. The moment you stop believing you are separate from God. It is not for the perfect, it is for the remembering. Jesus spoke in parables because heaven cannot be explained. It must be entered. It is the treasure hidden in the field, the pearl that costs everything false. The feast prepared but ignored because it does not flatter the ego. It dissolves it. And if you have ever touched it, in sudden stillness, in beauty that broke you open, in tears that came without explanation, then something in you already knows the truth. You never left. You were knocking on your own door. Heaven is not later. It is here. And if it is already within you, the real question becomes unavoidable. What exactly has been keeping you from remembering? If you are still carrying guilt from a story written long before you took your first breath, then the spell worked exactly as intended. Because the oldest lie ever whispered into the human psyche was not that you are sinful, but that you are broken. And once a being believes it is broken, it will spend its entire life begging to be repaired. But what if sin was never a stain? What if it was never a crime against God, but a collapse of memory? What if the soul was never condemned, only submerged in forgetting? Jesus did not arrive to fix you. He arrived to remind you, to call you back to what you were before shame learned your name. You were not born fallen. You were born luminous and then slowly trained to look away from your own light. You were taught to kneel before altars of stone, but never to tend the fire behind your ribs. Because here is the truth that rarely survives sermons. Sin is not the essence of who you are. It is the bruise left by forgetting who you were before the world told you who to be. The myth says the fall began with Eve. But what if it wasn't a fall at all? What if it was the first act of awakening? What if the serpent was not a villain but a symbol of consciousness stirring? Across ancient cultures, the serpent was never evil. It was wisdom, renewal, the coiled energy at the base of the spine waiting to rise. What if the fruit was not cursed but catalytic? Because consciousness has always threatened control. A human who knows is far more dangerous than a human who obeys. Close your eyes, not to repent, but to remember. Feel that subtle warmth behind your chest, that quiet presence that does not accuse, does not condemn. That is not shame, that is return. What if the shadows you feared were simply the light you hadn't yet turned toward? What if you were never here to be saved, but to remember why you came? Because somewhere beneath language, beneath belief, beneath identity, you carry echoes. Longings that do not belong to a single lifetime. Memories that surface without explanation. And the moment you ask why, something ancient stirs. The question itself becomes a key. If you have lived before, then where have you been? And more importantly, why are you here now? This is where another truth was carefully removed. Jesus spoke as one who understood the long arc of the soul. He spoke of Elijah returning. He asked, "Who do you say that I am?" Not because he needed an answer, but because you once knew. The early mystics understood this. The Gnostics preserved it. The soul does not arrive once and disappear. It circles, it learns, it remembers. Reincarnation was not heresy to early Christianity. It was assumed. Life was a school, the body a garment, the soul a traveler. But a being who knows it has lived before and will live again cannot be controlled by the threat of a single death. And fear, once removed, collapses the entire structure of domination. So the teaching was erased. The gospel was compressed into a one-life ultimatum: believe correctly or perish forever. But Jesus taught continuity, return, completion, the soul's gradual remembering of its own light. You are not one lifetime old, you are a library wearing skin, and your presence here at this moment in history is not accidental. You did not find this message by chance. You arrived with timelines behind you and something unfinished pulling you forward. And if the soul remembers, then some remembered more clearly than others. Mary Magdalene was not a footnote. She was not a scandal. She was not a fallen woman redeemed by proximity to holiness. She was initiated. She understood Jesus not just with belief, but with direct knowing. And that terrified those who were building a hierarchy rather than preserving a revelation. If Peter was made the rock of the church, Mary was the living water of the mystery. Her gospel did not teach obedience. It taught gnosis, inner knowing, unmediated truth, direct experience. No priest required, no institution authorized. She spoke of the soul's ascent through inner realms, not external judgment. She called Jesus the one who lives. He called her the one who knows. But power structures could not allow the sacred feminine to speak with equal authority. So her voice was buried beneath rumor and distortion, yet not deeply enough. Because her echo survives, not in pulpits, but in the quiet intuition of those who feel that truth is not learned but remembered. If you've ever felt drawn to a wisdom that transcends religion, one that doesn't demand belief but invites recognition, that stirring may not be random. It may be her voice moving again through the field of human awareness, awakening through you. This is not a pause in the story, it is a crossing. And once crossed, there is no return to comfortable ignorance. Because if Mary remembered, then the question becomes unbearable. Why do you feel so far from it? Perhaps because something ancient has been disguising the truth. Not a devil with horns, but something far subtler, far more effective. What if this world is not the center, but the reflection? What if this realm is not home, but a mirror? Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world," not because he rejected it, but because he remembered beyond it. This body, a robe, this world, a stage, and you, something older than both. That ache you've always carried, the sense that something here never quite fit. That is not failure, it is homesickness. Memory leaking through the cracks of forgetting. The world was never meant to complete you. It was designed to awaken you. Pain, beauty, loss, each one a breadcrumb, each one a whisper. You came from light, and you will return as fire. But only if you stop mistaking the mirror for the source. They gave you a caricature of evil, red skin, horns, a creature to fear. But the most effective enemy never announces itself. What if the real darkness was not a being at all, but a condition? Not possession, but disconnection. Not rebellion, but amnesia. Because once you forget where you came from, you will believe almost anything about who you are and where you are going. The true fall of humanity was never disobedience. It was forgetting. They did not need to imprison the body, they only needed to cloud memory, distract awareness, scatter attention, turn the inner gaze outward until the doorway within was sealed by neglect. You do not need to be exorcised. You need to remember. Because what was lost was not purity, but orientation. Jesus never pointed to temples of stone, he pointed to the temple of flesh. They said, "Confess here." He said, "Lom, the kingdom is within you." You were trained to look up while the real passage waited quietly beneath your ribs. Gnosis was never belief. It was direct knowing, the difference between reading the word water and feeling rain on your skin. 3 things were taken from you: direct knowing, inner fire, and sovereign light. Not stolen in a moment, but slowly, generation by generation, until forgetting felt normal. Yet none of it was destroyed, only dormant. And what is dormant can awaken. The ladder to heaven was never built of rungs, it was built of remembrance. Each truth recalled, each illusion released, draws you closer, not upward but inward. So the real question is not, do I believe? It is, do I remember? There is a reason this path was hidden. Real truth is not merely inconvenient, it is destabilizing. Jesus was not crucified for kindness. He was crucified because he awakened people. And awakening comes with friction. You will be misunderstood. You may be mocked. You may outgrow identities, relationships, even versions of yourself that once felt safe. But that resistance is not failure, it is confirmation. Flame meets friction when it begins to rise. You were never meant to be liked. You were meant to be luminous. When they try to dim you, shine anyway. Because the Christ within you does not kneel, it rises. This was the teaching they feared most. The one buried beneath doctrine, guilt, and fire. Not because it was blasphemy, but because it was unstoppable. You were told God was above you, outside you, watching from a throne. But the mystics knew, the Gnostics remembered, and Jesus embodied it without apology. God is not a being. God is being itself, the breath in your lungs, the stillness behind your eyes, the fire moving through your spine. That is not merely you. That is Source waking up in form. You are not made in the image of God, you are the expression of it. The echo, the current, the flame clothed in skin. The lie was separation, the truth is union. And when you stop seeking the divine in distant heavens, you begin to feel it pulse where it always has, within. You were never meant to worship God. You were meant to embody the divine, not in arrogance but in reverence, not to dominate the world but to heal it. Because when you recognize the light in yourself, you inevitably recognize it in others. And that recognition is the beginning of heaven on earth. So ask yourself, if Jesus became the Christ and the Christ lives in you, what are you waiting for? You are not a seeker anymore. You are a returner. You are not outside the kingdom. You are what returns it. These were never just teachings. They were fragments of a map hidden inside your awareness. The kingdom was never in the sky. It was encoded in your breath. You were never a sinner, only a star dimmed by forgetting. You do not need a book to find the light. You are the light. You have walked this path before, heard the whisper, felt the pull, fallen silent. And now you rise again, not through belief, but through remembrance. Mary knew. Jesus knew. The real battle was never with evil. It was with amnesia. This world is the shadow of your origin. You are a messenger of the real. The Christ is not an idol. It is a memory code awakening in human consciousness. Not through obedience, but through fire. And yes, this path will cost you, but only what was never truly you. You are not waiting for revelation. You are the revelation. The question is no longer, who was he? The question is, who are you becoming? If something ancient stirred within you while listening, do not let it fall back asleep. This message found you because you were ready to remember. Now let it find others. Like this video, not for vanity, but as a signal fire for those still wandering. Comment below "I remember" so others know they are not alone. Subscribe not to a channel, but to the awakening moving through you. Because this is not content. It is a call to the inner church. not built with stone, but with knowing, with light, with you. Thank you for walking this path with us. Thank you for listening with more than your ears. Thank you for remembering. The journey does not end here. It begins now. Until the next turning, walk in light, and do not forget who you are. You are the return.